Usyk and Muhammad Ali are both 6'3". Ali was faster than Usyk. So I think Muhammad Ali beats Usyk and Tyson Fury. Even definitely 60s Ali. And a lot of people think Tyson could beat Muhammad Ali. I don't think, I really like Mike Tyson, but I don't, Tyson couldn't beat anybody that he couldn't intimidate. Larry Holmes has to be top five heavyweight, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Mike Tyson, I don't think, I think he's maybe top 10, but I don't think he's top five.
Mhm.
I don't think
Yeah.
Rocky Marciano's top five. I told Lonnie, and I told this a couple times, that Muhammad didn't know it. Muhammad Ali didn't know this, but he was my father.
So I'm Sifu Slim. I'm currently in the Czech Republic, not too far from an ancient, beautiful Renaissance city called Český Krumlov, on my way to Poland.
Mhm.
And I have had a close contact for a number of years named Scoop Malinowski. And Malinowski, he's in New Jersey and Florida, and he's been a sports writer specializing in tennis and boxing. And he's a very good tennis player. I think he's a 4.5, which is pretty high level tennis player, especially a guy in his 50s. And he's connected me with Butch Zurbriggen, who's in Columbus, Ohio. And he said, "You've got to interview Butch because Butch, a good part of his life has been Muhammad Ali related things. And possible Butch has the largest collection of Ali books and a significant collection of magazine covers with Muhammad Ali on them and other memorabilia. And he knows a lot about Ali, and he's a huge Ali fan." So that's Scoop Malinowski, and he wrote a book called Portrait of a Champion. I encourage people to look online, and we'll put his website down below. Scoop Malinowski, and he's an insider. I mean, it's not easy to find people who are in that game where he's talked to hundreds, if not 1,000, professional fighters and their coaches, their managers, and other journalists. So he knows that the inside stuff that we don't read about in the
Mhm.
normal headlines. So over to Butch on maybe how he got to know Scoop and a little bit about Butch's background in the fight game and Muhammad Ali.
Well, I was actually messaging Scoop last night. We're in this Muhammad Ali group uh, by Tyrone Monahan, which is Tyrone's father knew Muhammad Ali, and Scoop and I are in the same group. He has like 150,000 members, and asked me what my favorite Muhammad Ali books were, and I couldn't pick just five, so I sent him 10, and I had to slip his in there, but yeah, I sent him 10 different ones last night. He said he hasn't read some of them, but he was planning on reading them. But yeah, so since then, and I every time I'd get a new book, I would post it on that Muhammad Ali group, and Scoop either commented on it or asked me about it and things like that. So that's how we became friends without actually meeting in person, which I have met so many people in this group that I call friends now, which I haven't even met in person.
And so you have 585 books currently on Muhammad
I
Ali,
did a
Butch?
recounts. I have 591, and I give a lot of them away because I have, for some reason, people think it's a good idea to get me a book on my birthday, a Muhammad Ali book on my birthday, like I'm not going to have it. So I have some doubles or extras, and I give them. I we can talk about it later, but I go to Capehill Cemetery in Louisville every June 3rd, Muhammad Ali's anniversary of his death, and I give away my extras to people that come pay their respects that day.
And
Um,
you do a pilgrimage there every date of his passing, and you stay there all day. Is that the idea?
yeah, I go there right when they open, and they all know me now. The staff at the cemetery knows me. People at the Ali Center, because they come there. Lonnie comes there every year. She actually sends me. She doesn't stay all day. She'll do. We'll do a speaking thing to people who come, and then she knows I stay all day, and she sends me lunch. She actually found out when I drive from Columbus to Louisville, I stopped at a rest stop on June 2nd, sleep in my car, then I go. Well, she found out I was sleeping in my car. She's been the last 5 years, she's paid for my hotel room. I mean, and she sends me lunch to the cemetery. She has the staff bring me a ice cooler, a bottle of water. So, she's just a great lady. And I have her on I text. We text back and forth once in a while, and um, she's still a big part of the Ali Center, even though she lives in Arizona. But and then I see people every year that I've that know me. The newspaper people interview me. The local TV stations interview me, and so it's so peaceful there. I don't know if you've seen pictures of his uh, gravesite, or it's just a
What's
beautiful.
it like?
Pardon me.
Is it a tombstone or what is it like?
Well, it has a marker in the back of the actual where he's laid to rest. Basically there's two markers, and then I'll send you some pictures of it. But there's flowers on all around. They put up the flowers that they put in attracts butterflies, and then they put a beehive in a nearby tree, hanging in a tree, and so that attracts bees. And so they got the butterfly and the bee thing going on. And
Wow.
there's a nice rolling stream you hear in the background, and you hear the birds chirping, and it's just a beautiful place. And a side note, Sifu, Colonel Sanders is buried there too somewhere. I haven't really looked for his grave, but I hear he's buried there
Is
somewhere.
his brother Rudy still around, and how's he doing?
His brother just died about a week ago.
Ah,
think he was um, I think he was 70. Let's see. I'd just be guessing. I think he was 76 or something like that. So yeah, he just died. He actually this past June 3rd, Rockman he came to the gravesite, and he was in a wheelchair, and they had to help him. You have to walk up some steps to get to it, and they had to help him up the stairs, but the steps. And he wasn't. He had trouble talking, and uh, you could tell he didn't have much longer. But he was a really nice guy too. I met him a few times.
did he have Parkinson's at all?
No, he did not have Parkinson's. Nope.
He stopped fighting relatively young in life, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he ended up with a winning record, but he didn't fight that. I don't think he had much more than 18 fights, 18 to 20 fights. Then he spent a lot of time training with his brother, and working with his brother, traveling with him. But yeah,
Yeah.
the Ali Center. I don't know if you ever been there, but me and my son actually camped out back in 2005. The first night they were open, we camped out to be the first paying customers, and we were. 2005, November 21st, 2005. Yeah, that was. I didn't know at the time until when I got back to Columbus, but at that time, Louisville was the fourth dangerous city in the United States.
Wow, fourth
and,
most dangerous city.
yeah, and I don't think it is now, but here me and my 9-year-old son are camping out in this city that we didn't realize or know it was that dangerous. But
Do you know where they got the 80 million to build the Ali Center?
a lot of it was donations, but I'm not sure if the city did any of that. I'm sure that they had to have some help from the city, but most of it was donations, like by celebrities and other boxers. And I know Lennox Lewis was a contributor. Um, LeBron James um, was a contributor, and I don't know who else was, but yeah, a lot of it was just from people giving. It's it'd be interesting. To see research if the city did put up any money
Did
besides
they do a big parade when they opened that center?
they had like the day before they opened it, they had a VIP uh, gathering. I think there was a parade. I wasn't at that though. We came the next day after all that was over, and it was a pretty good crowd the day we came to. Lonnie was there. Ali wasn't there the day that it actually opened to the public, but she came. But Muhammad wasn't. He wasn't there. I'm not sure where he was, but he must have been tired from the night before the big VIP thing.
Can you share um, the times that a couple of stories about the times you met or and were in the presence of Ali, and then the famous phone call that you received?
Oh, the, I've met all my kids have met Muhammad Ali. I have all my pictures taken with them. A lot of them are at like baseball card shows and signings where the athletes go and sign for a price. But I remember this one show. I think it was the Nationals in Cleveland. I don't remember the year, in the '90s. They had one row with Muhammad Ali, Joe Montana, Magic Johnson, a few other athletes, and then on the other side, like a few aisles away, they had the lesser known boxers like Chuck Wepner, Ken Norton, Jimmy Young, and they were all over there signing autographs. But they were basically making a living off of getting beat by Muhammad Ali. They were signing their autographs for like $20. Muhammad Ali's was like 200 at that time. I remember all the athletes came to see Muhammad. Like Joe Montana wanted his picture taken with Muhammad. Magic Johnson, wanted his picture taken with. He like if you have 100 celebrities in a room with Muhammad Ali, he's the one with the longest line. You know, I did get a picture. Some of the boxers like Chuck Wepner, Doug Jones was there, uh, Jimmy Young, Ken Norton. They all came over to where Ali was signing. And they were all there together. I did get a nice picture of that group with all those boxers together. And so I've gotten his autograph quite a few times. But anyways, we did this event with the New Jersey racetrack. I forget the name of the racetrack, New Jersey. It was in New Jersey, and it was a paid event. You'd pay to have dinner with Muhammad Ali, and Joe Namath was there. So that was the two big draws, and there was a lot of people there. So he'd come to your table and talk to you a little bit, and then you go get your picture taken with him. So we did that, and when it was over, Joe Namath, by the way, was drunk. They had to take him out. He was just hitting on the women and stuff like that. So they had to take him away. But after it was over, we're watching Muhammad leave with his entourage, his handlers, helpers, and he would stop at another event that was going on in a different area, and he would get up on the banquet table and do magic tricks for them, and they weren't even part of the paying uh, group that we were involved with. So he was doing magic tricks for these people, and then I remember one signing show, these kids were in wheelchairs and wanted his autograph. He would climb up over the table and sit, get right next to the kids in the wheelchair so they could have their picture taken with him. I mean, his people were making sure he didn't hurt himself because this was in the '90s when he wasn't, as athletic as we know him to be, So it's when you could tell Parkinson was setting on and things like that. But yeah, he would climb over tables just to get with these disabled kids, and it was quite a scene. But the phone call. So I'm back to New Jersey. We'd given Ali. My son gave him this picture of him. My son did a Black History Month bulletin board report from his school, and so he gave it to Muhammad Ali when we got our picture taken with him, and he had his phone number on there. Well, we had our phone number on it, not knowing that he was ever going to call. Well, the next day when we get back to New Jersey, he calls my house. The kids are in school. My wife's home, and it's when we had the landlines, the regular phones you didn't have. So I answered
What
the
year are
phone.
we talking about?
Pardon me.
What year are we
This
talking
was
about?
97, 1997. So I answer the phone, and it's Muhammad Ali. And we talk for about 15 minutes, maybe. He was in a hotel room in Chicago, and he asked me where I lived, how many kids I had. I don't think he remembered at that time how many kids I had from. But anyways, after we hung up, there's so many other questions I wish I would have asked him. I didn't even. I couldn't think at the time. I was so like, is this really happening? Type
Yeah.
thing. And so that's something. That's one of my greatest memories. I would never forget that. Uh, it was just unexpected, an
So,
unexpected surprise.
so Butch,
Uh,
I grew up in the rural area. Well, the first part was 10 years in the suburban area of outside of Newark and Orange, New Jersey, and then we moved out to the farming country close to Easton, Pennsylvania, the home of Larry Holmes. And
uh-huh.
Ali, going from maybe Newark Airport or from somewhere, maybe he had to go to New Jersey or New York for business. He would go back out to his Deer Lake Training Center, and he would drive down Route 78. And the farm that I grew up on from age 10 till 18 was right there, right, maybe 2 miles from that road. And so one of my buddies, who was a really interesting guy, very soft spoken, not braggadocious, he was sort of like the rebel, but not a criminal. And he that was important. He was just part of the scene type of guy. Didn't need to impress anyone.
Uh-huh.
And I like a really strong. He had something to share this particular day. And I said, "Did something happen to you yesterday?" And he said, "How'd you know?" And I go, "I don't know. So I just feel it. I can feel something happen to you yesterday." He goes, "Well," he said, "I was out hitchhiking on Route 78. Sorry, sorry, I messed that up. On Route 22, you can't hitchhike on Route 78. On Route 22, so that's the old highway that goes from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, and Route 78 is the newer one. So he was on Route 22 hitchhiking, and Muhammad Ali um, his vehicle, like a dark black Cadillac, stopped and opened the door. And, he said, "You need a ride, kid?" And he gets in, and it's Muhammad Ali. So Muhammad Ali did that kind of stuff. He was afraid of no one, always willing to help. Elvis did a lot of that stuff as well. A lot of the VIPs from the 50s through 70s did that kind of thing before they were more afraid of their lives and crazy stuff. And now they don't want people running around with cell phones, trying to get their moment of fame. They'd rather have that real interaction and be of some assistance to these people. So over to you, Butch, if you want to share any more stories about Ali.
Hi, this is Sifu Slim, author of The Aging Athlete. In this book, you're going to get to hear about two different groups of former high-performance athletes. One group, which is made up of 90% of the former athletes, does not do physical activity on a regular basis and tends to suffer the consequences of a sedentary lifestyle. The other group, which is made up of 10% of the former athletes, is doing physical activity on a regular basis and tends to thrive through the aging process, or at least has a better chance at coping with the aging process. We could have taken these folks to a lab and done all kinds of tests on them. Instead, we slowed them down and sat them down and asked them, in their own words, to describe why they are wired the way they are, so that we all, former athletes and non-athletes, can use some of their inspirational and motivational and mindset lessons in our own lives. I hope you pick up a copy today. You can go to theagingathlete.com. And when you have a chance to read it, I'd love to hear back from you to find out what your thoughts are on the stories of these aging athletes.
There's a YouTube video of, you might have seen it, Muhammad Ali walking, I think it was in Miami, walking down the street. He might have had one person with him but people were just coming up to him. He would shake their hands or sign an autograph or kiss the old ladies. And he must seem like he walked for a mile, down Miami, down this major highway or main street in Miami. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but
I have.
It was pretty remarkable. And they say he was the most recognized person in the world at one time back probably in the 70s at his peak. And I also remember he did something that the United States government couldn't do. I think in 91 or 92, went to Iraq and secured the release of 15 American hostages, which the Bush administration wasn't too happy that he went, or they told him he shouldn't, but he did. And so that, I do remember that. I remember him rescuing the young man that wanted to jump off the high-rise building, and yeah, just he just had time for everybody, and people meeting him in airports. And I don't know if you know the story where he went to get Sugar when he was younger. He wanted Sugar Ray Robinson's autograph, and he was turned down a particular time, and he said he would never be like that or do that to fans. And I heard one time, I've never verified it, but he was in Guinness's Book of World Records for signing the most autographs, which is possible, Yeah. And if you Google who the most written about human being in history is, it's Muhammad Ali.
Butch, how many of the books were written by people who were already authors before they wrote the book on Ali versus people who were just regular folks that said, "Hey, I love this guy. I'm going to research. I'm going to put a book out"?
Well, I know most of the books I have are written by just one author. I think the most books I have, Thomas Hauser, I think I have 4 books written by Thomas Hauser on Ali. And I know several of his family members have written books about him. But as far as, and there's this guy in the Muhammad Ali group, his name's Felix Rodriguez. He wrote a book me, my dad, and Muhammad Ali. And that's just from the love of being a fan, you know. So I have a lot of books with just one-time writers that just wrote because of the love. That particular book, me and Muhammad Ali, my dad, Muhammad Ali, and I don't know why this happens, but that book was released two different times with two different covers. I'm not sure why. And I have books that the same exact book has two different titles. I have, this is my first book I ever collected. And it's also my favorite title. I love that title, Loser and Still Champion. Um, this is the very first Muhammad Ali book, Cassius Clay book ever written. This is 1964. This is my favorite book. It's about several boxers and I have to that have their experience fighting Ali. It's called Facing Ali. This is the one with same book but two different titles. I have no idea why. I haven't researched it, but and I have a lot of foreign books. This is like Arabic. They do it the opposite way. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of these older ones, and this is his first magazine cover ever, 1962, Ring magazine. You can see the ring, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Wow.
That's his very first cover. I got two of these, and this is probably the rarest thing I have. This is the only one copy that exists. It's called Dialogue, 1967. What's funny about this, there's not one article in here on him. It's just got him on the cover.
Wow.
Because it helps sell or what, but
Yeah.
and of course here's Scoop's book. But that's the only thing I have a huge Ali collection. The only thing I collect anymore are the books. I enjoy collecting books. It's hard to find them. Amazon and eBay's made it easier, but some of them are, in my estimation, there's over 1,000 books on Ali. And some of them are too expensive for me to buy. I don't like to spend a whole lot of money on them.
Are they over $100?
The expensive ones?
Yeah.
That would be an expensive one. I can find books anywhere from 15 to 50 I'll spend without, if I don't have it, I'll get it. But the real expensive ones, I tell family if they want to give me a gift, you know, instead of giving me a book I already have, you know.
Have you read things or heard inside stories about Ali, the person, that you'd like to share? For example, Scoop was telling me that he learned that Ali hated arrogance, and one of the things he didn't like about Sinatra was that he thought Sinatra was arrogant.
I haven't heard anything like that. I know that he has a story that if he's out to dinner and he sees the server is nice to him but being rude to another person, that tells him who that person is. You know, Ali was good at reading people. Like, I was in line for an autograph one time, and I was the first one at the gate in line behind this rope, and they had ushers. It was young. This particular usher, when Ali was ready, he would undo the rope, and you go up and get your autograph. While we're standing there, this usher, he's probably 18 years old, 17 years old, and he's red hair, really white, and Muhammad Ali, and I'm standing there talking to this usher, and Muhammad Ali comes up to this kid, puts his arm around him, and and Muhammad Ali bends over, whispers in the kid's ear, and I'm standing there, I could hear exactly what he says. He goes, only Ali says the word. He goes, "Did you call me the N word?" This kid, he turned beet red, man. It was just the funniest thing, just the sense of humor of Ali. And his kid turned beet red, and he just started laughing, But I told that to some people at the Ali Cemetery just talking to people to come and visit, and I told it like Ali said it. I didn't say the N word. I said the actual word, and they got so mad at me for saying the word, even though I was.
Mm.
To me, it doesn't seem as funny because it was. If I say the N word, it's so funny hearing an actual from Muhammad Ali say, just because
Mhm.
back then in the '90s you could. I don't know. I guess I'm not saying it was accepted, but I think saying it in that context, I thought it was okay, but I guess it wasn't.
Yeah, Ali, and when he was being interviewed about his refusal to be inducted into the military to fight in the Vietnam War, he used to say, "I ain't got no problem with them Viet Cong. Ain't none of them ever called me the N word."
Yeah, and speaking of that, this group we're in, sometimes a troll will get on the comments and say Muhammad Ali was a draft dodger.
Mm.
Well, only worse, but and I always try to defend him. I would usually reply back that your hippies and rich kids were the draft dodgers. Muhammad went to the induction ceremony and just refused to step forward. And plus, why would any black person during the Vietnam era fight for America when they weren't free in their own country?
Correct, correct.
Made no sense to me. It was a no-brainer to me. And they're like,
No,
well, a lot of other black people went, and Joe Louis went, and I'm like, it was a principle.
mhm.
Yeah, he would have never saw frontline duty, but it was the principle to make a statement, to stand up, and and then I said the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, overturned his conviction 9-0. So to me, it was you're not free in your own country. Why should you fight for that country? You know.
I have one little clip I want to play here. You just be able to hear the sound, but the video will be in our final edit. So here it is.
You know how green I am. I don't have to tell you about my strategy. Let my trainer tell you. Bodini, come here. Bodini, tell him, what are we going to do? You're going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. That's what we're going to do. You heard it. That's my trainer.
So one of the things I wanted to share about Ali the boxer was that he was a movement and snap puncher. And I have a cousin who's more of a Mike Tyson fighter, and he's built like Mike Tyson, just not as heavy. And that's how he fights, like the Tyson in his early 20s fighting, swarm you, don't let you get any breath, and moves really well. And
Mm-hmm.
keeps his hands up and just keeps going. And he's had, I think he's had 205 street fights, as a kid growing up. That's what his thing was. He wasn't trying to like rewrite the record book on beating people up. He just liked fighting. And a lot of people when he grew up and when I grew up liked fighting, and he was just good at it. And that was his number one sport. But he looked at me in the gym, and I'm a tall, thin guy. I'm built more like Roger Federer, one of these top tennis players, kind of tall and thin. But I would say that strength is one of the things that I did well in most of my sports. I didn't have mass, but I had strength. So when he saw me working out, he says, he didn't like it. And I said, look, I said, if you ever watch Muhammad Ali fight, even though he was a 215-pound guy in shape, his fighting was my kind of fighting, which was movement and snap. And you hit the people directly, they're going to sting. And if you hit them 2 times or 3 times directly, they're going to go down. Whereas my cousin, he's gonna hit you like 4 times, and you're going to go down if you're not ready for it. So he had that style, Ali. Then he's removed from the sport for 3.5 years, from age 25 to 29. And then he comes back and he's no longer the same movement and snap fighter. He still has some of that, but now he's got to absorb the punches, wait for the right time, and then use more power than he used to have to do in the beginning. Maybe if you can tell me if you agree with that statement and what you think about the 2 different versions of Ali.
Well, I think I watched one of your podcasts with Scoop, and in that podcast, Scoop said, "No way Ali beats Tyson Fury." If you remember that one, I don't know.
I do. Yep.
And I disagree with him, especially after Usyk just beat Fury, because Usyk and Muhammad Ali are both 6'3". Ali was faster than Usyk. So I think Muhammad Ali beats Usyk and Tyson Fury. Even definitely 60s Ali. I think the Ali around the time of Foreman and the Thrill in Manila, I think that version of Ali beats Tyson or Usyk and Fury. I think after that, now Usyk's 38. I didn't know he was that old, and he's only got 20-some fights. But I think Usyk at 38 beats Ali at 30. I do think that. I don't think any version before the 60s, anytime in the 60s and before 1974, I don't think Usyk or Fury beats Ali. I truly don't think that. And a lot of people think Tyson could beat Muhammad Ali. I don't think. I really like Mike Tyson, but Tyson couldn't beat anybody that he couldn't intimidate. If he couldn't intimidate you, if you look back at the fights that he lost, those fighters weren't intimidated by him. Holyfield wasn't intimidated by him, and he beat him twice. I don't think Buster Douglas was intimidated by him and knocked him out. But people like Spinks, they were scared. You could tell Spinks was scared to death of getting in the ring with Tyson. And so I think the 60s Ali, there's not a person, I don't think ever, at least in my lifetime, there'll never be a person I think that can beat that version of Muhammad Ali.
Too hard to hit, in my opinion, amongst all the other things you could say positively about Ali. I mean, if he didn't want to get hit in the 60s, you couldn't hit him.
And he could hit backing up too, and he was just a perfect specimen for this sport. It's like Mike Tyson said, he'll take you to deep waters and drown you. He's like a Tyrannosaurus Rex with a pretty face.
Amazing that he could go 15 rounds, and in his early days, I can't remember how many were 15 rounds in the 60s. I know some of them were 12, but he could keep moving that whole time, and knocking on your door, as he said. And it's just amazing how you can keep doing that at 212, 15 pounds.
Yeah, I don't see Tyson Fury going 15 rounds as big as he was. He'd be gassed. Look at George Foreman. He would knock his guys out in the second or third round. So he didn't have the stamina. The big guys just couldn't go that far. And Sifu back in the 60s and 70s, these fighters fought sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8. I remember one time Muhammad, before he was champion back in the 60s, he fought 8 times in a year. And he's had plenty of years where he fought 5 or 6 fights. These guys are fighting 1 or 2 times a year.
No.
And they're going 12 rounds. And, they're not, back then the title fights were 15 rounds. And it's just, I think most sports like baseball, football, and basketball, players are definitely better these days. But I've yet to see that happen in boxing as far as boxers from the 70s, especially. Because many of those boxers from the 70s could be title holders today, that didn't quite get there in the 70s because the competition was so deep.
If on a 1 to a 10, I might rank Ali, the young Ali, a 10, where would you put the best of Larry Holmes, maybe the early 80s Larry Holmes?
I think now there's talk that Larry Holmes had a better jab than Muhammad Ali, and that's just hard to believe. But I don't dispute that.
Hmm.
I think it depends on a lot on how you use it. But I don't think a prime Larry beats a '60s Ali. I know he beat Ali. Ali had his onset of Parkinson's and too old to really shouldn't have been fighting that fight. And but Larry Holmes has to be top five heavyweight in my opinion.
Mhm.
Mike Tyson, I don't think. I think he's maybe top 10, but I don't think he's top five.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't think Rocky
Jack,
Marciano's top five.
Jack
Most of
Johnson was pretty tough
I
and
like Jack
smooth.
Johnson.
Jack
Mhm.
Johnson had that role where he could absorb all your stuff and deflect it and deflect you at the same time.
Right.
And it looked to me like Jack Johnson had fun with all that stuff. He was playful. I think Ali sometimes got arrogant with his stuff in the ring. Maybe it was just an impression. I don't know if that's correct. But Jack Johnson looks like, hey, the whole world's against me. I know I've got you. So I'm going to play around with this thing for 20 rounds or whatever, however many rounds some of those fights lasted. That to me was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was many rounds. I don't know if they had a limit or if they just fought until somebody was knocked out. I don't remember. But like Marciano, I think his 7 or 8 title defenses, each one was 37 or older. He didn't. It wasn't his fault. That's all that was out there, I guess. But yeah, and Joe Louis, I think, you know, I don't think Joe Louis gets the respect that he deserves. I think he should be a top five. Sometimes you don't even see him in the top 10. I remember there's one 1973. I can't even remember who the champion was, heavyweight champion was in '73. Was it still Joe Frazier?
Um, yeah, I know it's amazing that he didn't fight Norton. That would have been a heck of a fight.
But anyways, in 1973, the top 10, I saw it in my Ring magazine, the top 10 contenders, and I forget what month it was, of 1973, Muhammad Ali had beaten every one of them, every top 10 contender. And some other years, he beat the top eight of the 10. So Muhammad didn't duck anybody. And people say he didn't give Foreman a rematch. Well, if Foreman would have beat Jimmy Young, supposedly he would have got the rematch. But, Foreman got beat by Jimmy Young. And so Ali fought Jimmy Young. So, but Ali he never ducked anybody. And people usually don't say that he did, but that's just proof that he didn't, when he fought all these contenders. And at his stage in his life to take on the fight Ernie Shavers, are you crazy?
Oh my gosh.
He had nothing to prove. Why? I don't know, man. That's a
That's when
fight I would.
that's when Ferdy Pacheco said, "I'm done." He said, "This is too much abuse. These last few fights were unnecessary." And Ali talks about, needing the money. I know there was the one fight where he was supposed to get 5 million from Don King, and Don King never gave it to him, or he gave him 1 million. I'm not sure if that was the Rumble in the Jungle or what fight that was, but he needed money. He wasn't getting advertising. He did the Sears Die Hard. He did the Raid Roach Motel. And he was the most famous guy in the world, and he's not getting the corporate advertising money to do commercials, and they didn't have the card signings back in the early 70s. And so he needed money, and he kept fighting people, which was, in my opinion, a disaster. But, he had to do that.
I think the Frazier 3, Manila should have been his last fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then, trying to, I think fighting Larry Holmes and Trevor Berbick was, I think he needed the money. But people should have never, it makes you wonder if he would still be with us a few more years, if he didn't take those 2 fights.
Joe Frazier versus George Foreman, Kingston, Jamaica, January 22nd, 73, for the WBA, WBC, and the Ring Heavyweight Championship. So Frazier was the champ, I guess, right?
Okay. Boy,
until that date.
And Muhammad Ali being the 3-time champ 3 different times. Actually, if you think about it, you could say he's 4-time world champ, because when he fought Ernie Terrell, Muhammad Ali had the WBC belt and Terrell had WBA. Well, that should be a title fight as far as a different winning the WBA from Terrell should make him a, I don't know, 4-time champ to me. But
yeah, no,
people don't. He doesn't get that recognition for that 4th time. A lot of people don't think about that. I go to Walmart and I have tattoos of Muhammad Ali on my arms. I flow like butterfly, sting like a bee. My daughter from Russia, she has the same. We have matching tattoos, and there'll be people working the cash register, and mostly black teens, and they do not know who Muhammad Ali is, and I call it bad parenting. But he's such an important figure that I just can't believe. I coach a girls softball team, and 15 girls didn't know who he was. This high school girls. So it's times have changed.
I was in a thrift store in Florida 2 winters ago, and I needed one specific thing, but then at the checkout line, I saw a fella who was from South America. I was 60 at the time. He was probably 50. And he had this really cool Ali t-shirt that he had found. It looked like it had never been worn, and he pulled that off the rack. And I think it had Ali, with his arm raised like this. And it was a really neat thing. And I can't remember, I have it, but talk about intuition. This guy looked at me, and I was looking at that shirt, and I just went like this, and he handed it to me. He said, "This is for you." Isn't that
Really?
incredible? He knew that I had this connection with Ali. I've studied, I don't know, I tell people that I have 10,000 biographies in my head, history people, athletes, thinkers, authors. I'm just a Wikipedia guy and a book reader and a follower of interesting people. And Ali's the guy I've studied the most, but I haven't studied him as much as you. And this guy gave me that t-shirt, and I said, boy, this is such a cool thing. And so I have that in the place where I keep my stuff in Florida. So I'm going to break that out. If you and I do another conversation, maybe I'll have that t-shirt on, Butch.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I got tons. Every time I got tons of Ali t-shirts. But right now at the Ali Center, I have every year I go to Louisville on the 3rd. I bring, I don't know if you can see in my room, but I have a huge Ali collection. I have a lot in storage, but I also have the Decon. But I take part of my collection to the Ali Center to donate. This past year, they put up on the fourth floor at the Ali Center, they have part of my donations on display. So I was pretty. They want my books when I die.
Mhm.
My kids don't want. They don't want them. You know, they don't want to. That's a big job to. Do you ever have to move to pack these up and I do need to catalog them. I don't have them cataloged, but the Ali Center would like my books, but I don't see the Ali Center. They're in the business of on the things people donate, the items, they preserve them, which makes sense. So all my donations that I donate to the Ali Center are being preserved, which is a good thing. But still, to me, is people can't see them when they're being preserved. You know what I mean? And so every so often they do put some of my stuff on display so people can see them, which is what I asked for. So the books, I just can't see. If you ask the average person that goes to the Ali Center to check it out, they probably don't realize how many books are written on. You might think 10. People have no idea that there's over 1,000 books on Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing to the Ali Center is if they display them twice a year at least, because they have this one floor where they have exchanging exhibits. And there's also a floor with Leroy Neiman places, his drawings and paintings. But if they would display them twice a year, I would donate them to the Ali Center like tomorrow. But they don't want to make that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to hold off on that. But I might.
What would the price tag be if you were to sell those tomorrow and you found a donor that had a nonprofit and he was going to put them on display?
I would probably. I've thought about that before. And if you went to each book and itemize saying, well, this book is worth 10 or this book is worth 20, times that by almost 600, that's not a lot of money. So, but what it is the work that went into it.
Mm-hmm.
20 years, 30 years collecting the books is the.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably would not sell them unless I wouldn't take less than 50,000 for them.
That's what I was thinking.
I really wouldn't. Now, if I like the Ali Center, they don't buy any collections. It's all donated. But if they were, or somebody was gonna, I don't know how to say this. I would come off that price if I knew, depending on what the reasoning and the cause was for.
Mm-hmm.
I it's either way, it's not anything that's going to sustain a retirement or anything like that. You know, it's really just like I call it. My wife says I'm obsessed. I call it a joy. So
yeah.
So
maybe we can connect, Butch. Maybe we can connect sometime in the future and do another conversation. I have a final video, and this is Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about Ali's training. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is an impressive guy, and he's met a lot of other impressive people like Stallone. There are people out there who are like Ali that will go not the extra mile, but go the extra 10,000 miles that it takes to have a high achievement. And then keep laughing all the way along. Schwarzenegger and Ali have that in common. Elvis has that in common. They're always cracking jokes while they're doing all this hard stuff and messing with people. So here's a clip of Schwarzenegger, and then I'll ask you for your final comments, and then we can say goodbye for this time.
Well, I mean, he had this unbelievable waistline, and not only a slim waistline, but when he got punched, remember in boxing, they hit you below, right? I mean, they go upstairs, down, what they call upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs. Yeah. So they hit you low, to kind of make you run out of breath and all this. And And so he had to kind of take a lot of punishment. Remember the fight, George Foreman against Ali? How many times Foreman hit him in the waist, and he flexed his abs, and he could sustain the punishment. But how did he get there? So I asked him, I said, so how many reps do you do? I mean, we in bodybuilding, we do 1,000 reps a day. How many do you do? And he said to me, he says, I don't stop counting. I don't start counting until it hurts. Wow. So that to me said everything about his training. Because we in bodybuilding also have such a thing as kind of like do your reps until it burns, until it hurts, until failure. And then force out another few reps. Because that's when it grows. That's when your muscle grows. When you force out with the forced reps. When you force reps, exactly. And so what I want to make people understand is this is not just in bodybuilding or in any training for any sport. Physically, in order to really grow and to go to perfection is you have to go through the pain period and you have to go through the torture. But the mind is the same way. The more we take our mind through torture, and the more you can sustain punishment, and the more misery you can sustain, the stronger you will get and the stronger your character will get. And so this is why I always tell people.
So that's Schwarzenegger talking about Ali on Virgin Radio UK. And some final thoughts from Butch on that and the price that these great athletes like Muhammad Ali have to pay.
Well, that particular clip you just played reminds me of one of Ali's many quotes, and I can't remember the whole quote. But the part I remember of this particular quote is, "The will must be stronger than the skill." And probably my second favorite Muhammad Ali quote, but that right there says it all. You have to have the desire and the will to complement the skill. And when I say the will, I think part of that is training, and especially Muhammad Ali, the most famous man in the world. It's hard to, and I think it's one reason you had the training camp built, because it's hard to, it's easily to be distracted. When you're Muhammad Ali, he likes he's a people person. He likes the pretty women, and he likes to talk, and he likes to sign autographs. And so this camp, I think, helped him maintain a training lifestyle, especially for fights. But yeah, the will must be stronger than skill. I think, and Muhammad Ali, he'll tell you he hated training, but I think he said if you want to be the champion, you got to train. And you could tell there's some fights he probably didn't train as hard as he should have, for maybe not such great fighters like Wepner or Jimmy Young or whoever. But when the fight was against a person like Foreman or Frazier, he trained, and he trained hard. But Arnold Schwarzenegger is right. It's you have to train, and you have to. These days, I don't know if, like, I don't follow boxing that much anymore. I don't know if the training has become easier with all the different techniques or equipment they have now than it was. Like Muhammad Ali would, in his training camp, put on these big heavy boots and go out and chop down trees, and do so many hours or of sparring and jumping rope. And my granddaughter's 7 years old, and she loves to watch videos of Muhammad Ali jumping rope as fast as he did it. It just amazes her, and she's a Muhammad Ali fan. So I'm trying to preserve his legacy and in my grandkids. I'll tell you a good person that you might want to reach out to is his name's Tyrone Monahan, and I could send you the information. But his father, Patty Monahan, they're from across the pond somewhere. I can't remember exactly where they grew up at, but his when Muhammad Ali was stripped of his title, Patty Monahan, who was a bare knuckle fighter, uh, he got 23,000 signatures to send to the American government to give Muhammad Ali's title back to him. And Muhammad Ali found out about that, and they became friends. Muhammad Ali would uh, have Patty come to his home in Los Angeles at the time, I think, or Michigan or wherever, and so they became good friends. And actually, Patty Monahan actually traveled with Ali quite a bit and was in the corner of some of his fights with Angelo Dundee and Drew Boudini Brown and but I this Tyrone Monahan might be a good podcast for you, and I can send you his information. You can actually even request to join the group.
Yeah, that would be good. I'd like to be part of that group. Any last, Butch?
I feel honored that I lived during Muhammad Ali's here on Earth. I think you can live a million years and never meet a person like Muhammad Ali, and so I there's not a day that goes by I don't think about him. See, I never had a dad, so I told his wife Lonnie, and I've said this at other places that when I speak at his cemetery, they have every year Lonnie comes and she'll speak in front of the group that gathers there, and she asks me to speak. But what was I trying to say here? Oh,
Wow.
because I never had a dad. I don't know my dad,
Wow.
so I looked up to him as a father figure, and I told Lonnie that, and she laughed. But so I'm thankful that I lived in this lifetime. And I appreciate you reaching out to me. Okay,
Wonderful,
Sifu.
Butch. Sifu Slim, I'll sign off here for Butch, and if anybody needs to get a hold of Butch, they can contact me through my website, sifuslim.com. And I'm very appreciative we've had this time to hear these thoughts and memories from Butch Zurbriggen in Columbus. Lots of memories, lots of inspiration, lots of deep meanings, and take that with you and on your journey. And I wish you all the best in your health, happiness, and your wellness, in your mind, body, and spirit. And keep those dukes up and keep smiling after you dodge that punch. Big aloha. Take care, my brother.
I appreciate it. Have a good day.